All right, all right. Listen, welcome to Unscripted on a Tuesday, September 6th, 14 days before I turn 50. God, that's damn depressing. But that's okay. I'm gonna get off my life, and we're gonna get on to some sports. We got a special guest, our boy, the guy we love, the one that Frankie has a man crush on, none other than Chicago Sky and ASAP's own Mike Hughes. What's up, my
Hey
brother?
man, just chilling, just doing my thing, getting ready for the game, and I got a pizza in the oven, so that may or may not be burnt, but it is. We'll find out later.
Question. I pizzas are not good at this house. I'm gonna tell you a little trick, Mike. Whenever you are going to put a pizza box in the oven because you want it for later, whatever the case may be, don't forget the pizza box still in there when you want to go to make another dinner and your wife says, "Can you please preheat the oven?" And you preheat, and she comes home and she says, "Jason, the pizza's on fire in the oven." And I'm like, "Damn, I'm sorry, my bad."
See, I just make Jack's pizza. I don't know if y'all got all that out there, but it's just like you just heat it up and then it's solid, so we ain't even worried about it.
Oh
Our
God, well, I'll tell
Chicago's
you what
got
I
the
was
best
that
pizza,
day.
man. That deep dish pizza, man.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. And I didn't even have and I disabled the fire detector because the damn thing would go off if you breathed on it. So I'm pretty sure that if the apartment
That ain't
caught
gonna
on
help you
fire,
either.
there's going to be some, after I'm dead and burned to death, I'm sure there's going to be some liabilities long after on my name. Logan, what is up, my brother? How are you doing?
What up, man? Speaking about pizza, might as well just go with it. Big rumor. I heard Mr. Frankie C might be a pineapple and ham lover. A little bit controversial, but hey, it is what
Oh,
it is.
that's
I'm doing good, Jay. How about
controversial.
yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Hey, big shot Rob. Big
Going on,
Cleveland
man.
himself with the Cleveland hat on. The
Yeah.
Guardian of the
Yeah.
Galaxy. How's it going?
Yeah. It's going well, man. I'm excited
All right.
for Thursday night kickoff. We got the Bills and the Rams. I know all the Bills fans up here are real excited. They're gonna get their wings and pizza and fish fry and whatever else they eat.
Get the tables ready.
Yep. Yeah. My Dolphins play on Sunday, of course, taking on the Patriots, who I heard got to Miami 5 days early. But that's not really going to matter because the Dolphins are still going to take care of them. So I think they just
Absolutely.
got
And then,
the heat. Yeah.
of course, late to the party, but always here, our boy Gonzo. Gonzo, how you doing, brother?
Oh,
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Johnny
Look,
G.
bro.
I didn't know Johnny G was
Better,
in the
man.
cut.
Got the
Man,
Colts
hey,
hat
we
on,
got
man.
a full house today. No doubt about it. But we're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm gonna go ahead and get this first thing kicked off if I can find my thing. Yeah, man, let's get into it. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna talk about a little breaking news. We got about 20 minutes, and then we're gonna kick off the show. Real quick. So for those of you who don't know, TFO. I don't watch tennis, but TFO made a little bit of history there. He actually beat Nadal at the U.S. Open. First time an American has beaten Nadal in an U.S. Open since 2005. Do any of you guys watch tennis? I don't know. I don't
I used to watch it,
really
but I
watch
heard
tennis.
about it. I heard about it. Heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible stuff, man. So, it's good to see the American boys representing themselves at home, man.
Yeah.
And next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is anybody surprised that Ohio slipped out of, Ohio slipped out of the number 2 spot, went to number 3, even though they defeated number 5 Notre Dame, and then Georgia slides up to number 2 when they defeated number 11 Oregon. Granted, we all know how bad they beat Oregon,
Yeah.
and we all know that Ohio only beat Notre Dame by 11. But was anybody surprised that Ohio slipped up out of that number 2 spot?
Not at all. Because
Really?
Georgia had the more impressive win to me, man. Ohio State, they beat Notre Dame, but they didn't like blow them out like Georgia did Oregon. So I mean, I think Georgia's the defending national champion, and until the end of the year, if somebody beats them in the playoff or they don't win this year, then they're still the team to beat. I mean, you're the defending national champion. I mean, everybody's picking Alabama this year, I heard. But we'll
That's
see
every
what
year.
happens.
Come on.
Yeah, every year
That's every
everybody's picking Alabama. Yeah. Alabama's the team of the decade. So I'm so sick of them, man.
I got
Now
Ohio,
we're going to
baby.
this 12-man
Aren't we
playoff.
all?
Yeah.
Mike, freaking Notre Dame. I mean, this rankings. I mean, I get it. Rankings really shouldn't obviously mean anything, but at the same time, it kind of does a little bit. I mean, Notre Dame's 5, Oregon's 11. I mean, I get how bad Georgia blew out number 11, but at the same time, why are we not looking at this is the number 5 team that they beat, and then you're going to slip out? I mean, is there no credibility to Notre Dame being number 5?
I think there's credibility to it, but it also kind of counts on like how that game progressed and how that game went. When you look at a situation like against Oregon, who they my problem with Oregon is always they've had all the talent in the world time and time again, and they just never really know what to do with it. And that's all the way from Justin Herbert to Penei Sewell to a recent individual who passed away there on Spider. Spider was a freak tight end, man. I mean, he did amazing things. But when you really look at it for what it is and understanding that these guys really don't make any noise come playoffs, that to me is where I do agree. It is kind of weird. But like Big Shot Rob said, it's a conversation of how did you perform, and when you look at how Ohio State performed, what you're used to seeing from Ohio State versus what you saw, it was a tough battle, and it's one of those conversations to where they got the W, but they definitely could have performed a lot better on a lot of other cylinders. But if you're just basing it off of the stats that went through it, then I understand it. But I still got Ohio in my top 3.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Logan, one other thing, and the one thing that's consistent, I guess, about how they're doing the NCAA and how they're moving teams, as such. You look at Florida; they took out Utah, and they went from being unranked to jumping up to number 12. Now, was that a little bit too much overzealous on their rankings, or what how did you feel about that?
I mean, that was a pretty big jump, but also it was a big win for Florida. I mean, that program's been looking for a big win to get back in these rankings for quite some time now. We know they've had the potential, obviously, a couple of years ago with Trask and Pitts, but now, I mean, they looked really good against Utah, who a lot of people thought they were going to run away with that game. Obviously, week 1, anything's up for grabs, and Florida took it, man. I don't agree with them moving up by that many slots. Because, I mean, like I said, they went from unranked all the way to 12. I mean, they just ran past a lot of other teams. But I at least think they are in consideration for top 25. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like they could have maybe got in like high teens, not close to top 10. And as for Georgia, Oregon, I mean, Georgia just absolutely whooped them. Shout out Bo Nix for transferring schools just to get beat by 40 again. I mean, that poor guy just can't get a break. But I think that just because Georgia's putting in 3rd, 4th stringers, the peanut vendors, and the girl who was selling beers on the sidelines. I mean, it's just domination every way you look at it. So I can see I agree with Georgia moving up. Obviously, Ohio State got the win in 2-5 matchup. But I mean, come on, did anyone really? I mean, Notre Dame, they always just seem to get overhyped every year. And once again, I mean, they couldn't pull it off. They couldn't pull it off.
I agree. Gonzo, looking ahead to this coming week for college football, I just picked out one game, and it's just because it's Alabama. But not because I think that Alabama is going to win. We all know they're going to win. They're playing Texas this week. And, that's where Sarkisian, one of the proteges of the Saban coaching tree, went over to take a head coaching spot. He's got Ewers in now as his quarterback. They're 1-0. They came off a win. Obviously, I do expect Alabama to win that. They've got them by 20-point favorites. So my question is not that if you think Alabama's going to win, but do you think it's going to be the 20-point blowout, or do you think Texas can somehow or another make it a close game or a somewhat competitive game?
I think that has a potential to be a competitive game. I think Alabama's going to beat Texas. I think Texas is going to be a year or two. They're still a couple of years away before they're going to be at that level to compete with the Georgia and Alabama on a more consistent basis. I think Sarkisian will get that. I think he's going to get that turned around there, but I just think it's going to take a couple of years to get his system going and getting that recruiting class when he starts getting Arch Manning and some of the other guys that have committed there because of Arch Manning. I think once he starts getting that recruiting class in, which is a couple years away, I really think you're going to see a big jump in Texas there. But to go back real quick with Ohio State, I think Georgia was more impressive than Ohio State. But I think a reason a lot of people think that is how much Ohio State's offense was getting hyped up all off season, and then for their offense to come out and struggle for almost 3 quarters of that game against Notre Dame after they lost that one receiver was kind of a surprise. But I'm not counting Ohio State out yet. I think you give them a few games, they're going to look like the offense is going to look more like what people expected it to than what it did against Notre Dame in that first game of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last question is, Mike, did they get it right having Alabama 1? And I think it was Georgia that came out number 2. Then I think they slid down to 3. And now they're back to 2. But did they get it right having Alabama number 1 over Georgia?
I think because of history's past, I mean, it's just the consensus. It's a conversation to where the Lakers are always going to be in the conversation to win a championship every year. The New York Yankees and a bunch of the LA Dodgers are always going to be in the conversation just because of the historic of the franchise. As of right now, sure. Bryce Young had one hell of a game, and I got to give him his flowers. Because this kid's an absolute animal, and he's unfortunately going to have to be in Seattle for probably the rest of his NFL career. But it's definitely something to where I think he's putting on a show right now. So I think Alabama, at 1, I'm not going to sit here and say it's criminal that they're at 1, but I think after this week's performances, I think they did play better than Georgia.
Hey, you got to admit, Mike, though, if you're Bryce Young, wouldn't you rather go to Seattle than, let's say, Detroit or New York or something god awful like that? At least there you got Tyler Lockett, Metcalf, and whatever. And Pete Carroll's not a bad coach. I mean, they
I think Pete Carroll's on his way out.
Yeah, I think Pete's on his way out.
But
But
even if he is, I'm just saying, I'd much rather go to Seattle and at least have a stand-up chance than go to the likes of a New York or God knows the Lions or whatever.
I would rock out. I would rock out with Detroit if I was Bryce Young. I think they're building something nice over there. And that's coming from a Bears fan. I think they are. They're putting something pretty nice together. But yeah, I definitely would avoid anything in New York.
Hey, that's a good segue. Since we're talking about quarterbacks for a second, I want to talk about your boy Trubisky just for 1 second. As you know, he was named the captain. Clearly, he's been named the starter, along with Najee Harris got the captain role as well on that offensive side of the ball for the Steelers. We know the big knack of Nagy had on Trubisky's career, and then Trubisky left, and went elsewhere. I believe he went to Buffalo, what have you. But now that he's out from underneath the Nagy-isms, and now that he's with an organization like the Steelers, and we know that Tomlin is a really good head coach, and we know that Flores that they brought over is another great coach. And so we know that organization is building a really good system there. Does Trubisky, have a really good stand-up chance to build something positive for his legacy? Or is this just going to be another Bears Trubisky?
I think it's what you define as having a good season. I think right now Mitch's big thing is getting another contract. I think that's what it is. And this is going to be your Teddy Bridgewater type make it or break it type deal to where it's like, are you going to remain a backup anywhere else and float around the rest of your career like a Ryan Fitzpatrick? A poor man's Ryan Fitzpatrick at that, because Ryan was pretty heavily utilized before he became a backup. But it's a conversation that, and I was the first person in the room, and I'm still the only person left in the room. I was one of the first people to tell everybody back in 2018, Nagy has issues and it's an ego thing. And I always felt that way, even in the double doink, even in everything. Matt Nagy is just a very one-dimensional type guy. And, the difference between a good head coach and a routine head coach that's going to be a revolving door is, you being able to build around what you have. If you have a scheme and it only works with Chris Gonzo and Jay McLovin, but it doesn't work with Rob and Logan, then, you're not a good head coach. You need to be able to utilize all of your talent and all of your weapons around them. And that's a big problem that occurred in Chicago. Now with Mitch getting, I think you said Mitch got one of the C's. That to me is an issue. I think, you're a first year quarterback in this organization. And it's definitely a conversation. I would have gave it to Johnson and Najee, or maybe one of the offensive linemen, but I definitely wouldn't have gave it to Mitch just because, I love Mitch, but being a captain of a team, one of his biggest issues was kind of being in that moment. So I feel like that adds more
Yeah.
pressure to the moment. But if he's ready for that and he's shown that, and Tomlin, is willing, Tomlin just doesn't hand out C's. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that transpires. I still think Kenny Pickett is going to be that guy. And that's no shot at Mitch. I just think Kenny is a really talented individual. He looks great. And I think right now Mitch is just going to be fighting for that next contract. And you know what? If he plays the whole season and they make a wild card appearance or something like that, all power to him. But I'm not going to sit here and put too much high of a ceiling on Mitch Trubisky just because that's what the narrative's always been. I think Mitch just playing his game right now, having another great defense, and now except this time the difference is you have Najee Harris, you have Claypool, you have I can never pronounce their tight end's name, but he is a dog. I think his name's Pat.
I
I know his
think it's like feet.
Fryermuth.
yeah.
Like
Pat's an animal, man, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on that because of Ebron last year, kind
Yeah.
of got in the way of that. So, and you have Johnson, of course. So I think there's going to be a lot of good that goes into this year, and we'll see what playing with Josh Allen and Brian Dable really did for him.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I don't think Tomlin is the type of coach either that just gives out a seat. I think you have to earn that. And I think Trubisky has earned it. And like you said, rather than get too hyped up on, we're just going to have to let him, prove it on the field, and then we'll go from there. But I do want to say, Gonzo, he talked about Fitzpatrick for a second, and I got to say this about Fitzy. Fitzy was damn near the GOAT of bridge gap quarterbacks.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, when it comes to a bridge gap quarterback, you can't get better than Fitzpatrick. Honestly, damn. And that's the thing. As the Cowboys, I wish they'd bring Fitzy out and put him over there with Dak as a backup because God knows if Dak goes down, we let go of everybody. We don't have nobody behind Dak. So, good Lord, what if they made? What are they going to do? I don't know. It's going to be terrible over in Dallas. It's going to be murderous. I'm dreading this season. I got to be honest with you. Big shot, Rob, man. What do you think about Trubisky before we get on to the show, man? Him getting the captaincy. Where do you see the Steelers going with him?
Well, I think he's just going to play in the first game to get because he has the experience over Kenny Pickett, and maybe they're just going to see how he does the first couple games. But if he doesn't play well the first couple games, they should just go ahead and play Kenny Pickett because this guy played in Pittsburgh already. He's played in that stadium. He went to college for 4 years. I mean, you have to see what you have with this guy now because the college draft class of next year for quarterbacks is supposed to be pretty good. So, I mean, you have to see what you have in Kenny Pickett for this year. You just have to, play him. Trubisky might be better than him the first couple of games, but, if he doesn't play well at all, you just got to go with Pickett. I just think Pickett is the better prospect. I have nothing against Mitch Trubisky. I think he's been a good quarterback. But to me, he's more of a backup. I think Pickett might be the future quarterback of the Steelers. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you have to give him a chance. He's got good weapons around him. You got Najee Harris, you got Deontay Johnson, you got Chase Claypool. They just drafted George Pickens out of Georgia, so they got him, and they got that tight end Pat Freiermuth. So they have a good offense, and we already know they have a good defense. So I mean, the quarterback job it's up for grabs.
Yeah, no, I get it, and again, I think to Mike's point, it's going to give. I think it gives Pickett a little bit of time to, watch the game, play up a little bit, maybe learn some Trubisky, whatever, and then he can assume the role when it's his time. But it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
I wouldn't, Jay. Before we close off on it, though, to Rob's point too, I wouldn't wait too long. I really wouldn't because the future of I always forget what conference they're in, but. The future of that division is always going to be very, very competitive, especially if Lamar gets re-signed. You're going to have Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and soon Deshaun Watson. So to have Cleveland for 11 weeks taken out of, and no disrespect to Jacoby, but kind of taken out of that conversation because you understand, one, Amari Cooper can't stay healthy. 2, Kareem Hunt wants a trade. And then 3, Deshaun Watson has his whole situation. So right now is really the moment for me. If the Steelers want to make a run and really potentially not just win that division, but sneak into the playoffs, maybe be second in that division, this is the best season to do it. So to Rob's point, it's not a conversation of Mitch being the one that's going to help you win games. It's really just him as of this moment. being more NFL ready. But if that starts to change by week 2 or 3 and Mitch looks like the Mitch of old, then who's to say Kenny's not the one that's more NFL ready? And if he can win you games, that's all that matters.
And we
Oh,
know
yeah, absolutely.
that's all what Tomlin's about, because he's yet to have a losing season throughout his whole tenure.
He's
in
not
Pittsburgh,
folding
which
for
is
Mitch.
unheard
I
of.
promise you that. C or no C, he's not folding with no losing season. That's not happening.
Exactly. And Jay, I don't really care what happens as long as at the end of the season, I pray to God, we get another Damian Hernandez classic about Mitchell Trubisky. That's all I want, Jay.
Dame. I love Dame.
I will say,
Dame's
I
my
am
guy.
so glad he drafted him in fantasy.
As he
I
should.
almost cried tears.
Hey, listen, you can't just find that kind of stuff on TikTok. I mean, that is some serious gold that he put down that day. Seriously, they're gonna be talking about that. That should be time capsuled and buried in the internet, and then you dig it up later
forever.
on, and you like Cro-Magnon, Damien, comes out with that slogan. I mean, that'd just be incredible for the human race.
We love you,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Another
man.
thing with Pickett that helps him out is Pickett played in a pro style offense at Pittsburgh, so that also
that's true.
He's not going to need much of a learning curve since he played pro style offense when he was at Pitt.
Yeah, I swear to God, if I hear one more thing about his small hands, I'm so tired of that.
Yeah, that's.
I don't care.
Hey, Logan, who has small hands?
Pickett. Who do you think, Chris? Have you checked Twitter or SportsCenter every other hour?
It reminds me of when they said Jamar Chase can't tell the difference between a college football and an NFL football, and then he goes out and has 200+ receiving yard games. So
he was. What was it? He was. I think it was him who was like, "Oh, he's dropping all these passes in the preseason. He's going to be a bum."
Yeah, 100%. It's
They
people
try to
get
make
bored.
a big deal about Joe Burrow having small hands.
Yeah.
Right. Look what he did.
I think we put so much emphasis on the physical attribute rather than, there's other qualities that are just as important, if not more important. I mean, look at Tom Brady, determination, football IQ, just athletic ability. I mean, there's so much that goes into that, much less how big a guy's hands is. I mean, come on. Hey, listen, guys, we're going to segue into these WNBA playoffs. We'll break it down game by game. The first one we're going to tackle is the Chicago Sky beating the Connecticut Suns 76-72. Again, the Suns, I believe, were at home, and they now got a 2-1, or I should say the Sky have a 2-1 edge over the Sun. It was kind of a stellar game. We got Mike Hughes here. As you know, he has a podcast that strictly deals with the Chicago Sky, and he gets all the good interviews with those players and really kind of brings home the good information. Mike, I'm going to have you lead off. What do you think about this Chicago Sky over the Sun?
Yeah, I think, it's been a dogfight for sure. And, I was just talking to the head coach of Connecticut about it, and he's super ecstatic to just be back in Connecticut. They were super excited to be home. They were there for 11 days. I mean, he even said, he goes, it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful skyline, but he was sick and tired of being in Chicago and for the first 2 games. And, we came into Connecticut for game 3 and just kind of demolished them in that sense. And I understand it's 76-72, but really it didn't speak volumes to how well the Sky played. Emma Miesemann did her thing. Playoff Emma is here. We got 3 finals MVPs on this team. And that was something from the beginning of the year that I really put a nail on is, that's going to be a conversation down the stretch that, it's going to be the difference, and it's going to be that conversation. And throughout the season, Emma just figuring out her role alongside with Candace Parker and Ka and Sloot and Quiggs. It definitely was a process. She never looked bad, but, you just kind of wanted to get a feel for, like, in crunch time, who's going to take that shot or who's more comfortable to do it. And there was never a dull moment to where, this team, they won 26 games out of 36. They went 26-10. So they did their thing. Connecticut's got some dogs for sure. Bonner and company, they're the real deal. But the problem with them is, in the last 8 games against the Sky, we've won 7 of them. So, I mean, that's just what it is at the end of the day. And tonight I'm going to be really excited. I wish it was in Chicago, but I don't, because if it goes to game 5, then, they're going to run this tape back and say it's my fault. But my fault. But I wanted to get over with tonight. Hopefully we can, make our way into the finals by the end of tonight, and it's going to be exciting, man.
Absolutely. Gonzo, one of the things I thought that really, hurt the Suns in this was turnovers. The Skies had 12 steals to the Suns 4, and overall they actually had 17 turnovers to the Chicago Skies 9. So, what did you think about that game in particular?
To me, that's been the excuse me, that's been the big difference in between these teams in these games is the Chicago Sky's defense. When Candace Parker and that Sky defense is on, the Sun are going to struggle, and you're going to see turnovers like they were getting, and that was a big difference in that game. And I think that's going to be what's important for the Sky tonight is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. If they show up defensively, I think they win the game just because they're going to create so many turnovers from the Sun.
Yeah, I agree. And then Logan, one of the big things about that game was Candace Parker actually tied Tamika Catchings for double-doubles at 27 in the playoffs, man. How important, is she going to be come tonight when they play in Chicago? Or no, in Connecticut. I apologize, in Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously going to be a big factor, right? And with a prestige, with a great legacy like hers, she's not going to want to go down without a fight. She's going to go in there. She's going to be working, trying to get that double-double, like you said. And I think she's going to be a big factor in this game tonight. But it's going to get serious so far. Like I said, we're coming into game 4, and it's going to be a good one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing, Big Shot Rob, if you look at that 6-minute and 14-second mark, offense was extremely hard to find in that game. They actually went 4 minutes without either team scoring. And then when they got in that at the end of that 4 minutes, the Chicago Sky came alive, and then they finished off the game. And the Sun, during that 4-minute span, actually missed 8 shots. So what do the Suns need to do tonight to get that win?
Man, they just got to play good. I haven't really watched any of the WM playoffs, so I don't want to lie to you and tell you I've been watching it and following it. But, I mean, you're at home. I mean, feed off the crowd, play good defense, execute on offense, and it should win. And I guess it'll go back to Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we'll turn it over to the Storm real quick. And golly, I did not write that down. I thought I wrote that down. Did anybody catch this? Mike, educate me on the Storm. I did not write that on my notes. I knew I missed something.
Yeah, the Storm they did lose. I believe it was game 3, and it was an unfortunate loss. I'm rocking with Sue Bird. She's one of my favorite female athletes of all time. And it was in Seattle, so it went into overtime. It was a great game. Sue Bird had a dagger to kind of finish it off, but Becky Hammond and I know Big Shot Rob might not watch a lot of WNBA, and that's all love, but everybody's teach their own. But one thing I will say, if you watch NBA, Becky Hammond learned from the best and Greg Popovich, and she's been doing this bullshit play all season long. It's not bullshit. It's a great drawn up play, but it just bothers me because every single time they do it, it works, and it's like no one's adjusting to it. And they got Jackie Young with a bucket to force OT in the very end of it. So it was a great backdoor play. It was a great format. It was a great setup. You're looking at, Asia Wilson, who, just made history for back-to-back 30-point games. You got Kelsey Plum, who's one of my favorites in the league, and so many others throughout it, and you're looking at them to take that final shot. And here comes, here comes Jackie Young with a busted ankle, who literally just got taken out of the game 5 minutes prior. And it's, I mean, they want it bad, man. They want it bad. And I love Sue Bird. I love Breonna Stewart, and I love Tina Charles. But tonight's do or die. If they lose, they're out, and Sue Bird retires, and that's what it is. And I'm telling y'all right now, Breonna Stewart's out of Seattle, going to New York. The second Sue Bird retires. So I think right now is a very do or die situation for the future of Seattle. Because really the only thing that kept Breonna there was the conversation of Tina and Sue. And now with Sue gone, it's what's going to happen with Tina and what's going to happen with Breonna. There's a lot that goes into it. And Rob, if you ain't watching, I'm telling you right now, the beauty of this game, bro, everybody's a free agent every other year. So the league is always switching up. The league is always something different. It's always a lot of fun. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say the Sky's future is totally, going to be bright, because we got Candace Parker and literally everybody going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So we'll see what happens. I think Seattle, to me, I want Seattle to win. But one of the biggest things about, Las Vegas right now is they don't have a great bench, but every single one of their starters can drop 20 to 30 a night. And when you got 5 individuals in this league, that can, play 25 minutes and have 100 points, that's I know that sounds crazy if you're just a NBA fan, but in the W, it's pretty crazy, especially with the amount of defense these ladies play. So I think, I'm rocking with Seattle just because I love Sue, but yeah, I would, if I had to put money on it, I would say you have to bet on Las Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that was a crazy thing because Sue Bird hit that shot, that 3-pointer in the corner with 0.8 seconds left. And everybody's like, yep, game's over, done deal. And it should have been. The Storm should have won that game, and Aces should be down 2 games to 1.
They let the one girl from the Aces take 7 steps on a spin move to get a layup to tie the game.
100%. But that's that stuff, though. That's that stuff with Becky Hammond. Like, you're looking at, your 2 top scorers, an individual who has over 30 points in this game, and you give the ball to Young, who literally just obliterated her ankle like 5 minutes ago. It's that kind of stuff where you just look at it and you're like only Becky gets away with that shit. And that's why I love her, because it's like she lives or dies by it, and that's exactly how you got to go about it.
Yeah, I think the Aces will advance because of their 3-point shooting, and then because of Becky Hammond's.
Yeah, they're a problem for sure, bro. I don't want to see. I respectfully, I don't want to see Vegas in the finals if Chicago goes, but I'd rather see Seattle for sure.
Logan, that game will probably be known as the game of big shots and buzzer beaters. What did you think about it?
Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. That was a great game. It's just, the Storm fought back. They just kind of ran out of gas in OT, couldn't score a whole lot. And like Mike said, Vegas just got shooters, man. Of the top 5 scorers in the league in terms of points per game, they got 3 of them. So they're working with it. They're doing great. And, if they can continue that trend tonight, then they're going to be moving on.
Absolutely. Big shot, Rob. Defense at the end of the 4th quarter really, really hurt the Storm. Young obviously got ahead of McBeggar and took the inside pass for the layup. Again, what do you see going forward for the Storm, in terms of defense, and can they even up the series?
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, who's on the Storm? They got Sue Bird, right? She's on the Storm, or Son, I think, right? Okay. So,
yeah, you got Sue Bird on there. You got
anything's possible. I mean, I wish I would have kept up with this WNBA stuff earlier in the year and like now, but it's just really not my thing. But I'm just saying, I guess once you get in the playoffs, it's more interesting to watch. So, like with the other sports like baseball, it's hard to keep up with the whole season. But obviously, when you get into the playoffs, it's more fun to watch. And obviously the NBA too sometimes, because it's just such a long year. So
100%.
Yeah. Why did do that? All right, folks. Hey, we're going to transition into Brian Cashman and these New York Yankees. And is it time for Cashman to finally step down after this long 20-plus year reign?
Nobody cares about the Yankees.
Hey, listen.
There's only one person on our show that doesn't. He ain't here tonight.
Look, my thing about this, there is a huge disconnect between the front office being Brian Cashman and the clubhouse, to the point where Severino was put on the 60-day IL without ever even being discussed or talked to about it or anything. So there seems to be a real big disconnect, and I think a really extremely too heavy relying on analytics by the front office rather than the feel at the clubhouse level for the game and the way in which they approach their decision-making and things of that nature, to the point that they went 17-26 after the All-Star break. And it really is a much bigger number on the deficit side if you count that week prior to the All-Star break. So, again, they make way too many changes based on analytics rather than letting, on-field decision-making guide the team. What do you think about that, Mike?
I think there's a lot of things with Brian that we could all look at and be reasons to why, maybe potentially it's time for him to step down in his position. But I think there's also a lot of reasons for it to say, that, they were the hottest team in baseball to start off the year. So, they're the first team to 70 wins, and you got to take that into consideration. Now, obviously, the second half of the season hasn't transpired in the way you want it to. But that's the beauty of the game. Rob even said that it's a very long season. So I remember the Washington Nationals back in, 2019, looked like one of the worst teams in baseball and ended up winning the World Series. So, you look at the Atlanta Braves, with Ronald Acuna Jr. going down last year, and you thinking, okay, it's over. You bring in Jock Peterson and Jorge Soler, and that's going to fix everything. And it doesn't. But it's baseball at the end of the day, and Jorge Soler goes off to win, World Series MVP, and Jock's over here wearing pearls around his neck, dropping 450 bombs. So, I mean, you can't predict this game. And I think there's a lot that goes into that. I would say, my big thing about Brian is every single home run hit for the rest of the season by Aaron Judge has just complete and utterly screwed him over, because now you're looking at a guy, if he does break Roger Maris's record by the end of this season, not saying he is, not saying he isn't. I made a podcast about that like a month ago, but I jumped the gun way before anybody else. I was excited about it. But if he does, that's a fat payday, and that's on Brian, and that's another $400+ million contract to your roster, and you don't really have the farm system to be able to not do that. So I mean, you're gonna have to pay Judge, and you still have to pay Stan and Cole and company. So on the hot seat, sure. I don't think it's gonna happen though.
Yeah, and again, thanks for your perspectives, brother. I know you got the Chicago Sky getting ready to play, and I know you need to go cover that for your podcast. So I want to appreciate you coming on and taking some valuable time out to discuss WNBA and sports, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you guys for having me.
All right, man. Be good, man. Talk to you soon.
You too, Brody.
Talk to you later, Mike.
All right, Gani G.
Take care, Mike. All right.
Gonzo, listen, man. Listen. Cashman's in the final year. This is a contract year for Cashman. He's at the end of a 5-year, $25 million deal. Again, we talked about this earlier. He doesn't really build through the farm. He builds really mainly through free agency. What do you think for Cashman's future?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on how this season ends. If they don't make it deep in the playoffs or to a World Series, I think he could be gone. I think the guy that's going to be the scapegoat this year is going to be Boone. If they don't get to World Series, I think Boone's going to be gone as manager. But I can see Cashman being gone as too, because if you don't get to that World Series this year, are you really going to sign Cashman to an extension? But I mean, who are you going to go out and get that's going to be a better GM as well? Because we can say that he's not doing good, but the Yankees are competing. They're not. It's not like they're a trash team, but they're just not winning the World Series. Like that's the standard in New York for the Yankees. But I don't know if you get a GM that tries to build through the farm, if that'll work in the way the Yankees are built, because it's always about winning now. So I think you need a guy that can figure out contracts and get some of these big name players in there. But they got to find the right combination of egos where the locker room chemistry works out. And right now, I just think Boone has lost respect. I think it's more that Boone has lost respect to some of the players, and that's more the issue to me than what Cashman is.
And again, I get that as well. Logan, Cashman is the one that brought Boone in. I guess that's where I'm going with that. And so even though I agree with what Gonzo's saying, and he's not wrong, he's actually right about Boone. But we also have to remember that Cashman is the one that brought him in, which again, he also traded Montgomery for Bader. So there's a lot of questionable things I think that Brian Cashman is doing based on analytics more heavily than it is on feel of the game. Again, Brian Cashman, 20 seasons, and he hasn't had a losing season yet. But then again, he hasn't sniffed the World Series since 2009. Logan, what's your thoughts?
No, I mean, that's a good topic, right? He's only got one World Series in the last 21 years. That was in 2009, which is now 13 seasons ago after this year's going to be finished. They've had the number one payroll in 14 of those 21 years, and they've had the top three payroll in 20 of the 21. And they still can't get more than one World Series? I mean, Come on. I get the whole Girardi experiment. You got one with him, but that was it. And now with Boone, I mean, let's face it, the Yankees were the hottest team in the league the first few months of the year. And then right before the deadline, right before All-Star game, they just fell apart. I mean, they went on losing streaks. they're winning a few games now, but I mean, it's still, they have a hot division, man. The Rays are getting better. The Orioles are playing amazing. I mean, I'm not saying they're gonna lose their lead or whatever. I mean, they're still gonna be a playoff team, but I would say that they have to get to the ALCS minimum, if Boone wants to keep his job.
I agree. Big shot, Rob. To Logan's credit, they got a 5-game lead right now over Tampa. 5 games. They played like, Tampa.
15?
Huh?
They were up like 15 at one point. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, and they still got to play Tampa 4 to 5 more times. I mean, that 5 games, it could be where the Yankees go from first in the entire baseball realm to then first in the AL realm to where now they go from first in their division to where they could be second in their division. And this was supposed to be the hottest team in baseball. And then they bring in Montas to help out with the pitching, but then they get rid of Montgomery. It makes absolutely no sense, Rob. What's your thought?
The Yankee, man.
Yeah,
he called that out day one.
I think Montgomery's the better pitcher than Montas. So why would you get rid of Montgomery to get a guy like Bader? I mean, you could always get another hitter like somewhere else. It doesn't make sense, man. The Yankees aren't hitting the ball. They were hitting the ball earlier in the year. They were the best team in baseball. They were hitting everything. They got the 70 wins. It's just crazy how they've fallen apart. I mean, now hopefully they're still going to make the playoffs. I mean, yeah, you said 5-game lead over the Rays. 5 games is nothing. They could lose.
If it wasn't for Aaron Judge, man, this team would be in trouble.
And,
let's be real here.
And guys, we can't forget that the Blue Jays aren't that far out now either. They've climbed themselves back. It's still mathematically possible for them to sneak.
Oh, Damien, I wish Frankie was here whenever you just said that. Oh my God, we would never got off the show, Jay.
Bro,
Kenneth Miller said Cashman's time should be up. Time for it. I mean, at what point do you accept? I say this in air quotes, mediocrity from this team, only because they, obviously the Yankees, they have the most world championships, yada yada yada. But they haven't won one in 13 years now. Yeah. I mean, me and Jay's teams, we got one. There's a lot of teams who've gotten their first or added on to another World Series before the Yankees.
But on the flip side of that, they haven't had a losing season in how many years?
Exactly. Exactly. That's true too.
Let me point one thing out real quick. Look, these guys. Look, when Cashman came onto the scene, he was red hot. But he was red hot because he had a feel of the game. At that particular point in time, analytics had not become a thing, right? Billy Beane, I get, he did a good thing by introducing analytics, but then, you have to have a balance. Life has to be balanced between analytics and a feel for the game. And Cashman went all in on analytics because if you look at the beginning of his career, in 98, he won the title. In 99, he won the title. 2000, he won the title. That's 3 back-to-back years of titles. Then he goes on and gets it one more time in 2009. And then that's right about the time when analytics comes on the scene. And that's it. That was it for the Yankees. They went full board analytics with maybe a stash of a feel of the game thrown in. And I really think that's the reason why this team is where they are, is Cashman is too strung out on analytics, and he's lost touch of the game. That's my opinion. Yeah. All right, folks, we're going to get next topic. Next topic is, I forbid, please, sir. It's going to be Serena Williams. Is she better than, in the past, Margaret Court? If you don't know, there's been a rift. Margaret Court's about 80 years old. She won 24 Grand Slam singles titles. Serena's got 23. Court's a little upset because she feels like she has admired Serena, but she never felt that Serena admired her, to the point where she felt maybe disrespected or slighted in Serena's farewell speech, because she really did not give any sort of time in her speech dedicated towards Court. And I think that just kind of rubbed her the wrong way. And she said, you got to understand this. Serena is – a lot of people want to goat Serena Williams. A lot of people want to say Serena Williams is the best that tennis, at least on the female side, has ever seen. But again, to Court's favor, she played 7 years less because Court only played to 30. Plus, she took time out from tennis twice to give birth to babies. But then she won the Grand Slam the year after she gave birth, both instances. So Court's basically her defense is, hey, look, I played 7 years less than Serena, but yet I got more Grand Slam titles. How am I not the GOAT? How am I not this, that, or the other? And again, for me, I think it goes. The reason why she gets slighted so much is because she came out and said that she's against same-sex marriage. She is in favor of gay reforming of a gay person into being straight again, whatever that terminology is. And so obviously that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And so, on her reputation, on the PR side at least, she's taken a huge hit. And people really try to distance themselves, especially Billie Jean King, from her. And I think that's why Serena probably took a left turn instead of a right turn to give her adulation. Gonzo, what do you think about Serena, Miss Court, the whole idea of what she's saying and the fact that she feels slighted as not being the GOAT and that Serena is getting that GOAT title?
Jay, he messages the private chat saying he'd be right back.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I was over in the other chat group. I apologize. I was talking off the cup. Well, and Logan, what do you think about it, brother?
Well, I mean, I can say up till you just brought it up, I've never heard of Margaret Court before, and my God, what a turn that story had at the end there. Wasn't expecting it, but I mean, honestly, I like Serena, right? I mean, I don't follow tennis, and I think a lot of people know who Serena Williams is, and you brought up good points, right? That Court did it in 7 less years. That she retired at 30. Serena, obviously, on the other side of 30. But I mean, I think too that the amount of players, just how that they've gotten better over the years, right? Because I believe you said Court played in the 70s, correct?
Yes, Court played in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah, and I don't know any tennis terminology or whatnot, but just like any sport, I'm sure that the competition has gotten a lot stiffer, a lot better, and I'm not sure. I'm just throwing spitball in here, but also too, Serena had more challengers from probably not just the U.S., probably from all over the globe than what Court had, if I had to assume. And I mean, we all know that they're tremendous tennis players all over the globe. And
absolutely.
This is why I think comparisons are stupid. It causes a lot of drama. I mean, yeah, but I agree with you in a way, Damien. But it's a way for us to kill time on a show, so it works. But I love Serena. I think she's a tremendous player. Sucks to see her go, man. But I think that if people aren't going to call her the greatest of all time, then she definitely needs to be in that conversation. You know what I mean? It's like how people
absolutely.
It's like how people say LeBron James isn't the GOAT or is the GOAT, but even if you don't agree with that, he can at least be held to discussion. I mean, my God, that's been going on for 10 years now. So now, if you don't agree that Serena is, you can at least debate with it for however long you want to.
Absolutely. And big shot, Rob. I'm going to let you wrap this up. My thing is this, set aside the political views of Margaret Court, which are clearly they're rough at best. But if you put her political views aside and just look at what she did on the court, the fact that Serena played 7 years more but had 1 title less, you got to imagine that's pretty damn impressive to get 24 titles out of 25. That's what Court did. 25 title chances, and she got 24 out of 25. She only missed it 1 time, and she played 7 years less, regardless of Serena's competition level. And we'll all know that Serena, is the more athletic, stronger, quicker, person. Nobody's going to deny that. But then again, we can also say that so are the other players that she plays against, right? So, just competition for competition, player for player. How impressive is it that Margaret Court got 24 out of 25 versus Serena? Do we still think that Serena is the GOAT?
I mean, it's very impressive what Margaret Court did, but you gotta understand, maybe the competition wasn't as good as it is today with Serena Williams playing. I mean, athletes are way more talented. If you ask me, they have better trainers that are like training them. They have better like supplements and better diets and everything like that. So I mean, it's two different eras. So I mean, it's like you're comparing, like Logan said, you're comparing LeBron James, the best basketball player ever, probably to Michael Jordan. Anytime you do the comparisons, you got to understand it was just a different era, different players. A lot of people say like, "Oh, Bill Russell's the best player in basketball because he won the most championships." Look at his competition back then. I mean, the NBA doesn't have the talent like it did back then. The NBA now has way more talent than it did, back then. There's better nutrition, better trainers, better, everything's better. These athletes are way more like well conditioned. So I would say, only because I wasn't around back then, I gotta say Serena's the best player. But I could be wrong because, if anybody was around back then to watch Margaret Court play, they could say they have the right to say, she's the best player of all time.
No, and I get what you're saying, Gonzo. The question is Serena Williams the GOAT over Margaret Court? And just to give you a little back brief, real super quick, Margaret Court got 24 Grand Slams out of 25 chances. So that means she only missed not getting the Grand Slam one time. And she played 7 years less. And to their argument, Serena Williams and her competition, they do have the best of technology, the best of everything. But again, she 7 years less. She should have at least got 25 or 26, playing that many more years beyond. What do you think?
I think if you just look by like their tennis accomplishments and you take out everything else, I think Court can make an argument that she's just as good or better than Williams in just the tennis aspect. But when you add everything into it with what Serena Williams has meant to women's tennis on getting more opportunities for more minority females of the African American and even more of this in Hispanics, getting them more. You see more females like that playing in tennis nowadays because of Serena Williams. So I think when you add all that stuff up, that's what people see Serena as the go over Court. But if you didn't have that cultural stuff in there and it just came down to tennis, I think it's almost like the LeBron and Jordan thing. It's you're trying to compare errors, which is hard, and
Right.
and you're going to have people on both sides. But I think when you add all the other stuff in with what Serena Williams has meant to the game of tennis, and just to young African American athletes, I think that is what, in a lot of people's eyes, propels her as the GOAT.
Yeah,
and touch on that, Chris, just before we can wrap things up, Jay. From kind of just what we've all been discussing, it seems like Margaret Court made a tremendous impact on the court playing tennis. However, Serena has made a global impact with her play throughout her entire run.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. It was the fact that it seems like Margaret Court on the PR side, put a divisiveness in there, whereas Serena, on the PR side, was more about inclusion, and that's where those two obviously are different. All right, folks.
Yeah.
We gonna roll on.
I gotta say one more thing too before we go.
Yeah, go ahead. Bro.
Yeah, I mean they made a movie, King Richard. Obviously, it was about the Williams sister's father, but they still made a movie about Serena Williams and obviously her sister Venus Williams. And I don't know if they ever made a movie back in the day about Margaret Court. I mean, you could look that up.
Bro, Margaret was like 80. They didn't have documentaries back in the 60s.
Yeah. I was just saying that.
Somebody might wrote a book about her.
Yeah, maybe that. But
Probably that. Yep. All right.
Well, I'll tell you what a great read that must have been. LSU loses in Brian Kelly's debut. God, how hard is it to be the kicker that gets the point after attempt blocked, and then of course has the muffed punt? It's got to be hard to walk back on campus that day. Yeah, again, and then of course Smith, the defensive tackle for LSU, goes down with a torn ACL. It was a rough day for Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers, but they did put up a good score, 24-23. FSU wins again on the block point after attempt. Daniels did, I thought, a good job, 26-35, 209, 2 touchdowns, and he rushed 16 times for, I think it was like around 150 some odd yards, 7.1 average. I mean, the guy did it all, right? He passed, he ran, he did everything he could to help Brian Kelly win the debut. And unfortunately, that point after attempt just killed it for him. What do you think, Gonzo?
I'm going to be on the unpopular side probably here, but I think Brian Kelly is overrated as a coach. So when the LSU went after him, it kind of surprised me. I know they were looking for a big name in sorts after losing Ogeron, but Brian Kelly never really impressed me when he was at Notre Dame. Yeah, his teams to be ranked high, but how did they do if he played any team that was ranked higher than his team? Usually they got their butts kicked. So I mean, so I've never been a big Brian Kelly fan. With that kicker, it'd be hard to go back on campus because you feel like you let your team down, but when it gets blocked, to me that's a lot different than just missing it. Because
I get it.
I mean, it got blocks. That's more on the whole special teams than it is just on the kicker. But LSU made too many mistakes, and to me that goes back to the head coach. And I know it was their opener, and he's trying to get his new system in there and everything. But I just never been sold on Brian Kelly, and I really don't think that he's going to be the guy that's going to get LSU back in the national title picture.
Yeah, I agree. Logan?
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't work out. Obviously, the special teams was a big factor in the loss. You missed the field goal, and then you missed the extra point at the very end that cost you tying up the game. But I mean, I'm not. I think it was a close win. It was a win I think LSU should have had. No discredit to Jaden Daniels because my God, if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have been in that game at all.
Yeah,
as much as he did. But yeah, I mean, as for the team in general, the defense, they couldn't do much to stop Florida State with Travis and company. And man, Florida State's back 2-0 on the year. It's nice to see. A little bit of a change in terms of recent season for them. But yeah, Brian Kelly, like I said, it's one game. It's nothing too crazy. I'm not going to overreact quite yet. But it is definitely not the start that not the fairy tale start that a lot of LSU fans wanted. And I mean, hey, every time they lose, though, I do see the amazing videos of him recruiting with dancing with the players and singing with them, and it's so fun to watch. But yeah, not the best start, but I think LSU they'll bounce back from it this upcoming week because they playing? They have Southern, which I don't even know where that is. Their name is just Southern here on ESPN, so they're gonna get a win this week, hopefully. If not, then have to start playing.
Yeah, Rob. LSU did a good job at the end. They had 4:07 left to go. They get 2 touchdowns in that 4:07 to tie it up. And then, of course, like I said, they get the point after attempt block. They'll wind up losing. What does that mean for LSU going forward? Because that's a pretty hard blow.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that happened to Florida State in the past against my Miami Hurricanes, so we know all about that. But, yeah, I didn't really get to watch too much of the game. I looked at it on my phone a little bit. I watched it. But, yeah, Florida State looked pretty good. I mean, LSU, they made some mistakes at the end, which cost them the game. But I think they'll be all right. I mean, they play in the SEC. It's a tough conference. But they'll probably win some games in that conference. I mean, I don't see them, winning the East or the West. But they're going to win some games. But I look at Brian Kelly, like this guy, man, he jumps around too much as a coach, man. He's been with Cincinnati. He went to Notre Dame. He coached at, where else did he coach? Grand Valley State, Central Michigan. So, I mean, this guy's jumped around a lot as a coach. And then you look at somebody like Nick Saban, who, he's pretty much stayed at Alabama forever before he was at LSU, and he won them a national championship. So, I mean, I would like this guy to coach a school and just stay there for a long period of time and just make them a champion instead of just jumping around from school to school. But that's how it is a lot of days with college head coaches. They go where the money is, and obviously the better recruiting opportunity and facilities, whatever it may be.
No, I definitely agree with you. We're going to segue into our last topic. Are the Titans set up to be duds? That's interesting to me because you look at their defense, and their defense is still pretty damn good. Landry, their sack leader at 12 sacks last year, did tear his ACL, so he is out this year. So that was kind of a pretty good hit to one of their edge rushers. But you look at it. I think where I had them set up as duds is I think there's a lot of questions on that offense, right? You got 4 or 5 wide receivers that had gone from last year's squad, and the one guy you replaced Brown with is the rookie Treylon Burks, who we know has had a couple of injuries in training camp, has missed a little bit of time. So I don't think he's going to be quite ready to take on the wide receiver 1 role, which is then going to follow our trickle down to Robert Woods, who we know is coming off, I believe it's an Achilles injury of his own, and that's going to be your wide receiver 1. So what that tells me is that Vrabel is going to rely heavily on Derrick Henry, who's 28 years old and coming off his own damn knee issues. And can his body withstand a heavy workload when you're the primary focus of that offense? And I think that's kind of where I have them being duds, because if Henry goes down, so do the Titans. Again, they had the best record last year in the AFC, and under Vrabel, they're 41-24. And they are fundamentally sound, smart, and hard-nosed. But again, I don't think they got better over the offseason. And I think the team built themselves around Henry and the run game. And again, and that's why I feel like if Henry goes down, so do the Titans. Gonzo.
Yeah, I'm not sold on the Titans. I think they're the second best team in their division. Of course, I'm going with the Colts in the AFC South. But my concerns with the Titans are a lot like Jay's. Their receiving core, and I know you can say the same thing about the Colts receiving core. We don't know a whole lot about it as well, but I trust Matt Ryan more at quarterback than I do Ryan Tannehill. And with the Colts, I think the Colts had a better defense than what Tennessee did, and the Colts, I think, improved their defense, adding Stephon Gilmore and some of the pieces that we've added where Tennessee has it. And like, if Derrick Henry don't stay healthy, I think Tennessee's going to be in trouble. And how fast is this Edwards going to be able to be that number 1 receiver in the NFL? And then the situation they got him in, they need him to step up right away. So I think that's going to be interesting. But I have the Colts beating the Titans in their division. So I think it's going to be hard for the Titans to probably make the playoffs this season, because with the way the AFC West is, if you don't win your division in the South, you could struggle, to get a wild card spot, just because all the other divisions are a little bit tougher than what the South is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said Robert Woods was an Achilles. It wasn't Achilles. I apologize. It was his ACL that he tore. Logan, to Gonzo's point, man, I think that again, I think that the Colts definitely improved with Matt Ryan. They didn't really necessarily bring in enough wide receiver support, but again, I think they're definitely the more improved team over what the Titans have. What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I think like we're all kind of going to agree with it. As long as the Titans, as long as Derrick Henry doesn't go down, they're going to be a good team. They're going to be fighting, like we said, with Chris, with the Colts in the South. And I like I said, I don't hate Tannehill. It's not like he's an elite quarterback, but it's not like he's garbage either. He's a good veteran that you need who can get the passes done. You're not expecting him to throw for 350 a night. Just throw for a good time. Don't get too many interceptions. That's all he's there to do. And just give the ball to Henry. Like I said, there's not too many years left for him. We know typically, running backs get a little bit worse for wear when they get to that age 30 season. He might be kind of like that Adrian Peterson case where he's able to just kind of keep going, that Frank Gore case. It remains to be seen. But yeah, like I said, they got rid of Brown. They got Burks from Arkansas, who had a good year. But that's a lot to ask out of a rookie to step in there and be your number 1 receiver in a year in which they're trying, right? They're trying to get to the Super Bowl. And they have some good aspirations. And with Harold Landry going out for the whole season with that ACL injury, that's not going to help him at all. But I think as long as the offense can kind of do what it did last year, and as long as injuries aren't a big factor, I still think the Titans are going to be in for a good shape. I think they're obviously going to get a winning season, and I think them in Indianapolis are going to be battling at it the whole year to see who's going to get ownership of the AFC South.
Big Shot Rob, thoughts on the Titans?
Yeah, I think the Titans are going to regress this year. Obviously, losing A.J. Brown was a big loss. They're putting everything into Derrick Henry, who's going to be relied upon heavily. Obviously, he's going to get the ball a ton. I just hope he doesn't get injured like he did last year. And Ryan Tannehill he's an okay quarterback. He's a good veteran, good game manager. But yeah, I'd still go with the Colts to win this division. But I think the Colts and Titans will be battling it out. And I also think the Jaguars are going to be better than this year. You know, they got Trevor Lawrence coming back for his sophomore year. Travis Etienne is healthy. They got Christian Kirk from the Cardinals. They also got Marvin Jones is still there. They got the other running back, James Robinson, to go along with Travis Etienne. So don't be surprised that the Jaguars have a better year. And then obviously we know the Texans are going to be probably the worst team in the division. So I like the yeah.
Yep.
I would go Colts, Titans, and then Jaguars. But don't be surprised if the Titans slip a little bit and the Jaguars start coming up, because I mean that's a good Jacksonville team that I think is going to be good. They're going to definitely be better this year than years past.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. All right, folks, we are at the point of final thoughts. I'm going to give Gonzo, what are your final thoughts, my brother?
Man, this is getting to the best part of the year in sports, where NFL starting, MLB playoffs are getting ready to start, NBA will be starting right back up. So this is the part of the year where it seems like all the sports are going on at the same time. So if you're a sports fan, this is almost like the best part of the year. NFL starting two days away from NFL kickoff, and then Sunday, the first full weekend. I'm ready to just be lazy on Sunday and watch some football.
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you at all. Logan.
Yeah. A few things right now. The Mets are down 3-0 to the Pirates. Hopefully big loss for them. The Braves are only a game behind now. They're going out to Oakland, so that's going to be hopefully an easy series for them. Also, a few other things. I saw a great quote from Patrick Beverley, the brand new Los Angeles Laker, saying you'll be playing. Someone asked him, "You'll be playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis this year." He said, "They'll be playing with me." He said, "I made the playoffs last year and they didn't." So I thought that was pretty good for him.
Oh, damn.
His little soundbite, love to see it. And also, too, Chris, I'm sure we can talk about it off the air, but my God, wrestling is insane right now. With all of the hot topics, all of the just turmoil, backlash. It's fun to watch. If you're a wrestling fan, you know. If not, then just go on Twitter, anywhere. It's easy to look at now. And, yeah, man, it's fun. It's fun, man. Like you said, with college football kicking off earlier, now we get the NFL. Our fantasy leagues will be kicking off. All of us going to be going at each other. It's going to be a fun year, man.
And we got a big UFC fight coming up this weekend with Nate Diaz against Chimaev.
That's true. And speaking of UFC, Anderson Silva has now agreed to fight Jake Paul.
It's going to be a good one.
That has been officially announced.
The boxing, I would definitely be watching that.
Don't forget, coming up, you got Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G. I think next week or possibly next week.
Yep. Ruiz beat Ortiz over the weekend.
Yeah.
And then it looks like Tyson Fury is going to be hopefully fighting Joshua hopefully soon and trying to get this unification.
Not Joshua.
Isn't it Joshua?
No, it's what's his name? Usyk or Usyk? I can't pronounce his name.
Usyk.
Yeah.
I thought I saw something about him and Joshua though.
No, Joshua lost to that Usyk.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I just overlooked it then. All right, man. Hey, Rob, did you get your final thoughts in?
Yeah, man, I'm just excited. You know, NFL's finally kicking off Thursday night. Should be a great game between the Rams and the Bills. I'm going to go ahead and take the Rams in this one. You know, they're getting their rings, hanging up the banner. Should be a fun game. The Bills are missing Tre'Davious White, so I think that's going to hurt them a little bit, going up against Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson in that whole passing game. They also got Tyler Higbee as well, and those Rams running backs with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson Jr., so I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. And, yeah, I'm just excited, man. College football got kicked off, and then we got the NFL. Fantasy leagues going on, a lot of gambling going on. So Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. If you're gambling and playing fantasy and all that stuff, just be responsible with your money. That's all. Yeah, be
There you
safe,
go.
be responsible. Don't lose your money.
All I know is I
Set
hear
a
a
limit.
lot of
Set a
rent
limit.
being due, and nobody got the money because they lost it.
Set a limit if you're going to gamble. Set a limit.
Yeah, set a limit.
Damien, we'll talk about that on Thursday because we're still waiting for more stuff to come out with the whole CM Punk stuff. Jay, we'll get you caught up on it behind the screen.
Nice. All good. Hey, listen, hell of a good way to start off the new week on Thursday, like he already alluded to, Big Shot Rob. You got the Rams, you got the Bills. Everywhere I look, all the top fives all got Bills at number one for the majority. All have Josh Allen at quarterback number one. So a lot of pressure coming into Thursday. They do take on the defending champs in the Rams. So I cannot think of a better way to get this season started than that specific game. I mean, what? Oh man, the popcorn's already in the refrigerator, ready to go. So again, Unscripted will be on an hour and 20 minutes before that. So make sure you catch Unscripted 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna talk all things football, get you geared up, ready to go for that game, and make sure you pregame responsibly and all that good stuff. All right, folks.
Hey, Jay.
Anybody else got anything left?
To Buffalo.
Hey, can I add one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, on Thursday after Unscripted, my dad, myself, and my dad are going to be doing a watch along and reaction show for the NFL kickoff game. So if you want to talk some football while you're watching the game, or come check that out. We'll be doing that right after Unscripted on Thursday night.
So there you go. If you're sitting at your house and you had nobody to watch the football game with, just go hit up Gonzo. He'll be your friend for a couple of hours, and y'all can get drunk and have a good time with him watching a hell of a good football game.
And if you guys aren't doing anything Thursday night, you guys are more than welcome to jump on if you want.
There we go.
Yeah, man. Blue looked at me and said, "Dad, I can't go out with you this afternoon, so I'm sure I'll probably hang out."
Yeah, enjoy that whiskey too, man.
There you go.
Jesus.
Enjoy responsibly, everyone.
I don't drink much whiskey. I'll be drinking my beer.
Oh yeah, that's what I'll be drinking too, probably.
Gonzo, you need to be putting as much IV
and
fluid into your body as possible.
Yeah.
We're gonna give him some Gatorades.
Hey, your new friend should be electrolytes.
I'm
There we
gonna
go.
walk around with them helmets, but instead of the beer.
Oh yeah,
two
just have them pumping
Gatorades.
through you.
He said, "Hey, have electrolytes on the right can and a beer can with electrolytes." You know, they got that now. They got beer with electrolytes. Put the beer with electrolytes in the left can, and I think you'll be okay. By the way, if you guys take me up on that, you know, that was Jay's tip for drinking for the week. Always have your
Electrolyte beer.
Yeah.
Also, Jay, shout out to Sufferfest and Zila's Brewing Companies for the electrolyte beer. If you want to sponsor us, we're open.
Hey, sponsors, we love that. Also,
Yep.
happy birthday to Jonathan Mathis,
Yes, sir.
who turned, I think, 37, 38. I don't know, God. I think he's 37. Anyway, happy birthday, Gonzo. Gonzo. Jonathan Mathis, happy birthday, Jonathan. Gonzo, you still got time. Jonathan, happy birthday.
Listen, I got about a month and a half.
I'm about to say, you got a little bit of time.
All right, we'll see y'all Thursday.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Peace.
And then I hit the wrong
And now we
button.
wait. Unscripted After Dark, everyone, the show where we